our food spending, and answer the question, is your food eating you? So we're going to go ahead and begin. And just want to start off with saying, we might not realize it, but our food spending, our spending around food can actually really make a huge difference in our budget and our goals for our finances. And learning to manage our food expenses is pretty significant when it comes to our money. So after today, you will know why and also how to rein this budget in. So just to start off, I'm going to give a little info about me and share my own personal story with food. So I'm a wife and a mom of two little boys. I graduated with my accounting degree, got my CPA right out of school, worked as a corporate accountant, and then found financial coaching. And so I was trained with Ramsey Solutions, as well as the Financial Coach Academy for financial coaching, and also received a training for the psychology of financial planning. I'm also by day a business intelligence analyst at my job. So as you can see, I'm pretty busy and I know I need to meal plan. So the problem is I hated meal planning. It would take me, I would leave it for Sunday afternoon and it would take me hours. And it's the last thing I wanted to be doing. I would dread it so much. I'd put it off. Sometimes I wouldn't even do it. And I would simply, buy the same thing every week, probably have some food waste, and kind of just wing it during the week. But one day, my friend and I were talking finances, and she mentioned how much money she spent on groceries. And I was pretty amazed when I heard that she feeds her family of 6 for only $150 a week. That's $600 a month for 6 people. And I only have 4 in my family, and sometimes I've nearly doubled that. And so I told her, you need to tell me all the things. So I ended up wanting to interview her, and you can watch that interview on YouTube, and I'll provide the link maybe at the end of the call. But this is kind of what spurred me to create this talk. So it won't all be about meal planning, as you'll find out, but meal planning is a great way to cut our budget, and we'll be talking about a few different key takeaways when it comes to our budget and food, so stay tuned. Okay, so I would like to ask a question to everybody that's live. Tommy, if you could pull up that poll.
Sure.
All right, so the question is, how many of you know how much you're spending on your food budget? So go ahead and answer. Some of you might say, yes, I have a really good handle on how much I'm spending on groceries, eating out, coffee, anything food related. But maybe you're like, Michelle, you know what? I don't really know. I'm not sure. Or maybe even some of you, if you're being completely honest, have absolutely no idea how much you're spending and maybe even a little afraid to find out. Okay. So I know there's not a ton live, but Tommy, what are our results here?
Yeah, and we'll leave this open and we can kind of come back to it too at the end. But we've got one that says, I don't know how much I'm spending. And then another that said, no, I'm afraid to know.
Okay.
Oh, and one more just came in. So it's a tie, a 3-way vote.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm interested to get started, and hopefully you guys will have some takeaways from this presentation. So I'll go ahead and pick up my story. So after interviewing my friend about her meal planning method and food in general, I completely changed how I meal plan, and I used her method. And I kid you not that anyone that I have suggested this method to and then has actually implemented, we've saved 50% of our food budget. So if 50% can be saved on our grocery budget, what in the world are we doing with our food? Is our food actually eating us instead of the other way around? So we're going to talk about food. We're going to really dive into why this might be happening. And honestly, this is what I do as a financial coach in general, not just about food. I'm really able to help you find clarity in your budget, in the life that you want, and the goals you want to achieve. And then we work together to find solutions, and I help you guide you through making your goals a reality and providing that accountability that a lot of people need. So I will have a lot to cover. If we have questions at the end, we'll probably be able to get to them. But I really want to make sure we focus on the webinar, what I have. But if you have any questions, we can always schedule a call and I can get those answered for you. All right. So let's dive in. Okay. So one of the key aspects when it comes to our food budget, or really any part of our budget, is actually knowing and being able to see what it is and how much we're spending on it. So this is awareness. When we don't have awareness, we make poor decisions. So I don't think people are going around and saying, I have bills coming up, but I have this extra money. I'm just going to spend it anyway. I don't think that's what people are saying. I think what they're saying is, I have bills coming up, I have this extra money. I think I can make it work. I think I'm okay. I don't really know exactly how much I'll need, but I'll make it work. That's probably what they're saying. And it's because they really don't know. So having awareness on how much you spend and how much you want to spend is a really key to making sure you're in control and your money in control of your money, and you're deciding what to do with it instead of looking back and seeing where it went. In one of my sessions, we literally go line by line in someone's budget and we see what they're spending in every area. Verde actually has a great tool to help with that analysis. But a lot of times that exercise of really reviewing every category at one time is something that people have never done before, which means they don't have any insight or clarity into their money and how they're spending it and where it's going. But we can't really make good decisions, again, if we don't know what we're doing. So once we start having awareness of our money, we can feel confident in our spending, knowing that we're spending on what we value, and we'll feel comfortable with the amount of money we're devoting to whatever budget category we're talking about, like food or entertainment or travel. But most importantly, you aren't eating all of it away on food. Okay, so the second point is eating out. So eating out is a great way to spend all of your money. It's really easy, it's convenient. You don't really feel it unless you're actually looking at it. So with the clients that I've worked with, on average, they're spending about $1,000 on groceries every month plus $450 on food. So that's a huge number. 34% of Americans go out to eat once a week. And in general, they spend about 20% of their budget on food, and half of that is spent on eating out. So that's a significant number going towards our food. Now, especially during inflationary times, food prices has just gone up. But even before inflation was upon us, restaurants usually have an upcharge of like 300% on food, meaning you can buy something for $15 and you most likely could have made it at home for $5. Again, some of us aren't amazing chefs per se, so that's one of the reasons why you might go out. However, a lot of times when we go out, it's not for, wanting that culinary masterpiece. We kind of just want the convenience of it. So once we have awareness of how much we're spending and how much we want to spend, you can now make a plan for eating out. And so making a plan will give you the freedom from the guilt when you choose to eat out. And you'll also, decide if it's worth the $300 upcharge. Because you don't have to nix it out completely, but you do need to take control and decide what you want to spend. Saving an extra $200 a month instead of spending it towards food and putting it towards your goals can be very satisfying. Okay. And so now the final key we're going to talk about is meal planning. So a lot of people just don't do this. Like I quoted the stat earlier, 34% are eating out once a week and maybe just doing the rest of the meals on the fly. So even if they are meal planning, they might not be doing it in the most efficient way or the most money saving way as possible. So meal planning done the right way can actually save you money, lots of money. But again, unless your mom has been able to teach you, where are we supposed to learn how to meal plan effectively? A lot of times we might, plan our meals out, but we end up using random ingredients and we have them left in our fridge. We only use it for one recipe, and we end up throwing a lot of the unused or forgotten food away because we only needed it for that one. But when we plan on making a meal, we don't, also might not want to feel like cooking it or eating it. And so we're like, let's just go out anyway. So we're spending even more money on food. And finally, meal planning you can change it into something you dread, like I did, and then turn it around into a quick and easy way that saves you money and time. and maybe even half your grocery budget. So once you know how to do it the right way, you'll be amazed at how much you are going to be spending at the grocery store. So what can we actually start doing to take control of our food budget? Well, first I'll talk about the mistakes that people make when they try to get control back. The first one is using a credit card for spending. So I have found this does not work. Um, the reason why is because there's not really a limit on your credit card. There's obviously the max limit, but you can't feel that limit because it's so far out. When people put their day-to-day spending on a credit card, um, I'm talking, food, groceries, eating out, gas money, spending money, Amazon purchases, all of that. If they aren't constantly looking at it and having a limit set themselves, in their mind or keeping it track in some way, then they just go right on spending, and then they're shocked when they look at the statements or look at the balance one day and they realize they can't pay it off with the money that's in their checking account. So again, if here's that awareness piece. If we don't have awareness, we can't get control and we make poor decisions. So the second mistake that I see is that we don't have a plan for when it comes to eating out. So you've all heard the saying, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so if we don't set clear boundaries, we don't have boundaries. If we don't determine how many times we're going to go out or how much money we're going to be willing to spend a month on eating out, we will probably surprise ourselves again, looking back and seeing that we spent, $1,000 on food in the last 3 weeks. And lastly, the last mistake I see is that, we don't know how to meal plan. We just never learn it. We don't know the cost-effective way. So planning meals every week using completely different ingredients or expensive ingredients, making full elaborate meals will not save you money if that's why you're doing it. And so what I used to do was buy, by default and just buy the same things every week, not realizing that I had food waiting for me to use and then finding I had food waste myself. So now that we know that mistake, let's talk about how we can solve that. So we need to determine what we are actually spending and decide, what we want to spend. So use Verde's tool. This is your homework. Go use Verde's tool and look back at your food spending and see and ask yourself, on groceries, eating out, coffee, all of that thing, all of those things, how much are you currently spending? Are you comfortable with that number? How does that number make you feel? Is it too high? What can you do to change that? So I teach my clients to have a separate spending account where we determine a set amount of money to go towards gas, groceries, eating out, spending money, and we move that money every pay period to this separate account. We make this transfer once the person gets paid, and that's the amount that they get to spend for that pay period. And that's free to use. You can go use it all. You can leave some in there, but once it's done, it's done. So by doing this, we're turning our day-to-day spending into a fixed expense. And now we're confident and we know exactly how much we're using and spending our money for these particular expenses. So, why do we do this? It makes our money and spending more tangible. So you can go to your bank app if you have that, or pull it up online and see the number, and you can see it decrease as it's going throughout the pay period. So now anytime you swipe, you look and say, okay, this is how much I have for the last remaining few days of the pay period. What do I need to do? How do I need to adjust? Getting that awareness in there. So by doing this, you won't ever feel like, man, I literally just spent all my money on X or whatever that may be. But now you can know and feel confident because you decided how much you're going to be spending and you planned it ahead of time. And there was a limit. So next, we're going to want to make a plan for eating out. So we're going to ask ourselves a couple questions again. The questions are, how many times do I want to eat out a month, if that's a goal, or how much am I willing to spend during the month? So again, you don't have to nix it out completely, but you do need to set a plan. So I have a client that has some big savings goals, and they almost cut out eating out completely. and it worked, and they're saving lots of money. But they decided to add back a little because they enjoyed it and they liked it, and they determined what a good amount they would be willing to spend, because every dollar that you put towards something like your spending or food, it's one less dollar towards your goal. But they were able to find that number that they were comfortable with. So again, you don't have to cut it out completely, but you do need to decide. But we do have some tips on how we could save while eating out, even if we choose to. So we can choose to eat out for brunch or lunch instead of dinner, because those are usually the cheaper meals. You could also choose to split dinner meals instead of getting one per person. I know someone who, they were being very frugal and trying to save as much as they can. So you don't have to do this, but they would split a Chipotle, veggie bowl, and they would, go through the line, but then ask them to put more beans, more rice. It would be this big, huge bowl by the end of it. And they were able to make lots of mini burritos for their family, and it lasted a couple of days. And they put in the freezer. It lasted, quick meals for their family. So that's one way to do it. You could also, you know, go to dinner a little bit earlier, try their happy hour specials, look for local ads, find some deals within your area. You could also save $2 a day and $40 a month by making your coffee at home. Or you could also change up the restaurants that you're going to. I have a client who really wanted to keep their date night, and that included dinner out. So while they were in debt, they decided they would choose something like Taco Bell versus, what they were accustomed to, which was seafood or steak dinners, because they knew it was only temporary. They were willing to make that sacrifice. Now, again, I don't think you have to, sacrifice everything and just go to fast food when you go to eat out. I actually, health-wise, do not recommend that either. However, you can make minor adjustments and set boundaries that can significantly reduce your budget. And finally, to meal planning, the big one. So like I said, I have my meal planning video, the interview that I did with my friend, and you can take a look at that if you want all the details. But I broken down here what this method looks like. So step one is look at what you have on hand. So you want to ask yourself first, what's in my pantry, what's in my fridge, freezer, and that's what you'll start with. Now, can you make any meals, one or two meals or more, that you have all of the ingredients for, except for, maybe one or two items? And that's where you're going to start your grocery list. So look at what you got. Maybe I can add two things to something I already have. There's my first meal. Write down the one or two things that you need. So the next step is to then decide on the rest of the remaining meal. So you want to ask yourself, what do I want to eat? Do I have a favorite recipe that's been calling my name, or do I want to try a new recipe? And here is where I would recommend having a place where you have 5 to 10 of your favorite recipes. And these recipes would have overlapping ingredients. So again, we aren't starting from scratch. And even if you want to try a new recipe, try to find somewhere where you usually have some of the ingredients needed, again, so that's overlapping and you're not starting from scratch. So take a look, and then whatever meals you decide, add those remaining ingredients that you need to your grocery list. So if you're really trying to get that budget smaller, you could also ask and look what's on sale right now, look at your local ads and see what you can get for a little cheaper price. So you want to plan these meals, and you want to do about 5 to 7. The rest of the meals will end up being, leftovers, or maybe you can do one night out a week if that's what you would like. One helpful tip that I found that we talked about with my friend was to plan your meals, but not assign a specific day. So like we talked about earlier, when that day comes around and you've assigned it a specific meal and you don't feel like it, you're probably not going to want to make it. And you'll probably just say, I don't want to make that. Let's just go out. So by doing this and not assigning days, you kind of have a little bit of flexibility, some options, and it might help you with, making what you actually planned. So, maybe one night you don't want to make lasagna, but you're craving like a Caesar salad. You can flip flop and just pick from your menu. So one caveat to this that I actually do is, if you happen to be really busy a few nights, which I am, I assign meals to those days or say those are leftover days. Because when I assign the meals that I choose for those busy nights, I'm choosing super quick and easy one pot meals. I use my Instapot and it's a breeze to make and it helps me a lot. So yeah, so that's kind of summarizing the meal. So once you have your list, you looked at your inventories, you looked at the rest of the 5 to 7 meals that you have. Now we are going to finish our list and now stick to our list when we go shopping. So why I bring your list, take it to the grocery store. Why are we sticking to our list? Because this will actually help us with impulse buying, food waste. Because even if something is on sale and you see it there, if you already have a plan and you buy something in addition to that, you might end up with way too much food. It might go bad. It might get lost in your fridge because it wasn't in the plan. So one caveat to this would be if you're seeing something on sale that can freeze well, meats, for example, if they're 30, they usually go on sale 30 to 50% at some point. And so if you see that happening and you like this particular meat or whatever, you use it often, go ahead and buy it and then freeze it. But if it's outside of the plan, you might end up with food waste. So as long as it can freeze well and you can store it, good idea. Okay, so let's get through my slides here. So there are actually a few other benefits to meal planning without just focusing on the money part. The first one is it simplifies our decision making. You plan your week 30 minutes maybe, and you have all your meals ready to go. And I've heard somewhere that we make over 2,000 decisions a day. So making all your meals ahead of time and deciding all of that gives you one less thing to do during the week. And again, like in my example, very busy. So I would love to have everything ready for me ahead of time before I have to use my brain and decide something else. So it also saves you a lot of time in the store. Again, using me, I don't like going to the grocery store. So if I can get in there and out, I'm in heaven. And so that's what this offers, which I love. It also provides less stress around dinner time because, when 5 comes around, the kids are hungry. I have no idea what I'm going to make. My husband's late. It just takes one less thing off. I know exactly what I'm doing, and we're in a good spot. And then finally, we've talked about this, limiting our food waste. So by planning, by only buying what we need, less is wasted and forgotten. So when it comes to meals, again, like I said, if you can do all of this stuff, but still choose maybe not saving in the most cost effective way, but I do have some saving tips for you. There's lots of ways to save money on meals. So we can actually stretch our meals by using good bases like quinoa, rice, veggies, or pasta. And we can, sprinkle on the protein or whatever the most expensive thing is and not use that as the main feature. So for example, maybe doing a taco salad instead of tacos or a chicken stir fry instead of, your chicken breast and your veggies on the side. I actually eat vegan, so I don't have to worry about the price of meat. But I can still stretch my meals as eating this way. I can make chili go for days if I wanted to. Sometimes it's kind of tiring to get chili every single day of the week. But if I add quinoa to my chili, it can go a long way. Also, you can buy dry beans or any kind of dry legume or whatever, and use that. And it's way cheaper than canned anything. So using that, and along with that, I use my Instapot all the time to cook those. But also, one pot meals are super easy and quick, and they are more cost savings because it's all right in there. One of the things that my friend and I talked about was also just changing your mindset around food. So instead of food being the main focus at dinner time, make it instead about the company and the time that you're spending together as the main focus. Because when you make your meals nourishing and for fuel instead of extravagant and bougie, which is one of the words my client one of my clients likes to say, you're taking away that pressure of making this elaborate meal and also saving money because we're just doing it simply. Um, and another way, just a quick way to save is, broth. I never worry about broth. You just flavored water and it's just as good. You add a little bit more seasonings here and there and you're fine. Um, and then again, I think I mentioned this earlier. If you choose to have, those 5 to 10 favorite meals, having those ingredients on hand, you're less likely to eat out. So you always know you have options. So it's more of another buffer to help you stay on track. And then finally, at the end of the month, you can let your creativity come alive and maybe make it a challenge to use everything that's left over in your fridge and see what you can come up with, see what the stragglers are in there. Hopefully you don't have a ton if you're using this kind of meal planning way, but maybe you might, and you can just see what happens in the kitchen. Okay. All right. So that was a lot, but today we explored key aspects of our finances that often go unnoticed, and that main key is our food spending. So think about it. Ask yourself now that you've learned all of this, is your food eating you? Our spending around food can significantly impact our budget and our financial goals. And learning how to manage our food expenses is crucial for taking control of our money. So let's make sure you have these main takeaways in your notes before we finish up. So what were the 3 ones? I hope you remember them by now. I've been repeating them for the past 30 minutes here. So the first one is awareness. So having a clear understanding of our spending is essential. Without awareness, we make poor financial decisions. And by reviewing and having a way to see your expenses real time, you'll know where your money is going, and you can make sure you direct it towards your goals instead of other categories within your budget. Next, eating out. Eating out can devour your budget. The average American spends significant portions of their budget on eating out, and restaurants have huge markups. So set limits on how much you'll eat out and how much you'll spend. This empowers you to enjoy your meals without guilt and saves you money towards your financial goals. And finally, my favorite, meal planning. Done right, meal planning can revolutionize your budget, and you can create a meal plan based on what you have, what you want to eat, and what's on sale. Overlapping ingredients can save you time and money, and you avoid impulse buying as you stick to your grocery budget. So incorporating these 3 steps will transform your relationship with food spending, giving you the power to decide where your money goes and freeing up your funds for your financial goals. So imagine if you are in the driver's seat of your money and you knew exactly that your money was working for you and you weren't eating it away. So beyond what we learned today, I want you to see a different possibility, that if you viewed every single category with a little bit more detail, like we did today with food, you could completely change your mindset with money. And instead of feeling like you don't know what's going on or you can't seem to make any progress towards your goals, you can actually have clarity and change that and know exactly where your money's going and be able to start making empowered decisions. So for those of you that are ready to commit and take an honest look at your spending, say yes to being in the driver's seat, I want to share a little bit about my Focus and Go session. So if you're interested to get a handle on all of your expenses, if you're tired of those random expenses like car repair or AC replacement surprising you, and even more so if you want a full-fledged system for your money, not just for your food, this is exactly what I do in my Focus and Go session. It's $295 for this 2-hour session, and you'll get some prep work, you'll get a questionnaire, and we'll meet and we'll go over currently where you stand financially, and we'll focus on a goal and then whatever specific goal you want to tackle. And then I'll teach you this new framework about your money. We'll walk through the plan, and then you can go make it happen. So if you aren't quite ready to have someone else look at your money, and if you want to try to do it on your own, feel free to visit my website. You can go to my blog where I have a number of posts that will help you in your journey, including the interview with my friend if you want more details on meal planning. I will also send the link, the meal planning link guide that nicely summarizes what we talked about today regarding meal planning. Or you can go get it yourself at hopecoachkc.com. I'll go to that slide. /meal planning, hopecoachkc.com/meal planning to get that guide. And signing up for that will provide you with the guide, but also you'll get on my email list where every month I send tips or tips on saving or just coaching from me. So our chat about food is really just the start of a new way of handling your money and prioritizing your goals. And I would love to be part of your journey with you. So